They took our job! Yeah, they're down, took our job!
People shouting in the square. Hi guys! Welcome to a costume making video. I hope you're planning a spooky Halloween. As for me, I was from the moment I saw the Schuyler Sisters dresses from Hamilton. They're this interesting mix of historical silhouette yet contemporary fabrics. And to Eliza's dress, I said, Okay, I'll stop it with the Hamilton clips, I promise. Here's how I started making this costume. Firstly, I bought a more bluish fabric rather than teal, because this color is slightly more flattering on me. I also bought white cotton for lining, some lace, and buttons. I'm making this historically accurate-ish, so I'm starting with a plain white shift or chemise that will go under the dress, and it's super simple, you'll see in a moment. And here's the design for the bodice. It's 8 panels altogether. The buttons will be purely decorative. There will be hooks and eyes underneath that will function as closure. As I said, I'm planning to make this dress historically accurate-ish, and what this basically means is I'm trying to stay historically accurate with the undergarments and by not sewing the lace directly onto the dress itself, but I'm having it actually be on the underlayer on the shift. But that's really about it. The fabrics are modern, the methods, I'm mostly using a sewing machine, and the dress is still more costumey than anything else. So I'm starting with the white shift. I'm measuring and cutting out a white rectangle, for me around 60 centimeters wide, and the length is probably around 70. I just folded the fabric in half basically. Then I cut out a squarish hole for the neckline. I had to make it a little bit wider, could have made it even a bit lower, but okay. And then I cut out another 2 smaller rectangles for the sleeves. Those will be 3/4 length sleeves, of course, pretty wide and loose. I hemmed them and attached this lace that will go around the neckline and around the sleeves. For the neckline, I sewed it on in this, to me, slightly unusual way, but it seems like that's how the lace stands on Eliza's dress, and I actually found some extant historical shifts with lace sewn on in this same way, so I went with this method. I was originally going to add gussets under the sleeves, but they were not needed, so I skipped them. Lastly, I hand felled any raw edges on the inside, and the bottom edge did not need to be hemmed because it was cut on a selvage. Then I spread out my 4 meters of the blue teal fashion fabric, determined how much I will need for the bodice and the sleeves, and then cut around 2.6 meters of this fabric off, and this is the length that I used for the skirt portion of the dress. The skirt is really simple. It's similar to how I made it in my pink dress from The Great. It's essentially just 2 rectangles, pleated at the top, then the rectangles are sewn together at the sides about 3/4 of the way up, and I left around 20 centimeters from the waist down unsewn so that I can get the skirt on and off, of course, and tie it at the front and the back. Now, this method is actually kind of how petticoats were sewn historically-ish. And here's the finished skirt. The kitty approves, so we're good to go on. Next, I covered the buttons in fabric. I bought these buttons specifically for this purpose. And yes, I have only 5 because that's how many there were in the pack. And I said, okay, I'm not buying another pack just for one extra button. 5 will have to do. And Hamilton fans, you will have to forgive me for this faux pas. Then I moved on to cutting out all the pieces for the bodice. So first I cut out 2 3/4 length sleeves. Then the bodice pieces, and I made the front panels like this, as you can see in the clips. One front panel is completely normal, just straight down, while the other one is cut at an angle diagonally, since that's how Eliza's dress seems to be made. I was contemplating how to make this more historically accurate, but changing this aspect just makes it no longer Eliza's dress, so I didn't change anything here. And yes, I decided on the front closure because that's easier for me. This is the rough layout of the bodice panels. And then of course I cut out the same pieces out of the white cotton lining as well. So this is the white cotton that I used for the shift previously. I sewed the blue panels together and the white ones together, and now I'm going to just basically sew the 2 bodices, if you will, together. So this way any raw edges will be sandwiched in between the layers, and I won't have to deal with that. Here is where I made the biggest mistake of this project. Long story short, the diagonal panel ended up on the wrong side. I had them sewn together here. I said, hey, I can just cut off the excess fabric on one panel, because there's too much anyway, because this is the diagonal one. I can unpick the other side and cut out a new layer, instead of unpicking both front panels and cutting out both new front panels. So yeah, the lesson here is don't take shortcuts, kids. And yes, I totally mirrored the picture in the thumbnail. I regret nothing. I added 1 bone, aka plastic zip tie, to each front panel, and 1 to the back to give the bodice some more shape, but most of the shape will come from the stays worn underneath anyway. Here at the front is where I sewed on some hooks and eyes. And the buttons, of course, are just decorative. I tried the bodice on, the straps are still loose at this point, and I figured out I needed to fix the inner front panel, so the one that's under. I need to lower it a bit, so that's what I did. Then it was just hand filing the raw edges, attaching the pieces together, and no, I did not film putting on the sleeves because this is the most annoying business ever, but I essentially sandwiched the sleeves in between the fashion fabric and the lining, if that makes sense. So voila, the finished dress. Another little issue that I noticed when I put everything together was the fact that the bodice is quite short. So what I could have done is added some hooks and eyes to the side that could also be attached to the skirt, but I didn't because it works fine if I just stuck it in a little bit higher. But overall, I'm still pretty happy with the results and I really like this dress. I love the fit of the sleeves. and I think the dress looks pretty much how I imagined it. Thank you for joining me on this sewing journey. If you're a Hamilton fan or not, I hope you enjoyed this video. Please don't forget to leave a like, comment, and subscribe for more sewing, art, and costume commentary videos. I'll see you soon.